Pretty Boy. And
Okay.
okay, so you clearly don't know anything about this movie.
No.
Well, when I think Pretty Boy, I just think of that Seinfeld episode where Newman says, "Nice game, pretty boy."
You said, nice game, pretty boy.
Boy, have you heard of a film called Blind from last year? No.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Blind was that last year's Fright Fest, which was
Okay.
obviously all online, and it was a slasher set in the Hollywood Hills. So you have this sort of fading actress Faye, who was sort of really popular once in like a soap opera, and
Okay.
she's blind, which sort of gives it the title, and there's kind of a relationship with her and another guy who is deaf. Killer, who's the pretty boy of this film.
Ah.
He's obsessed with her, so he starts stalking her, and he becomes the villain, the killer of that film.
Ah.
So I
Oh,
saw
and he's Pretty
Blind.
Boy.
Yeah, so now we've got a sequel, the most unlikely sequel ever, the sequel which probably about three people wanted. I mean, the first film they have it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to do these at some point,
I
right?
think so, yes.
Yeah. Certainly, I mean, if Season of the Witch review had us laughing a lot as well. Now, Blind, I sort of had a soft spot for because my mum liked it. We watched it together, and my mum liked it, and it wasn't terrible. I mean, some people have said it's terrible. I don't necessarily agree it was terrible, but if you'd said to me after that there's going to be a sequel, I would yeah, laugh basically. So the sequel actually it does a Halloween 2 style thing. It actually picks up the same night where the character of Pretty Boy has, kidnapped Faye. At first she thinks it's the other guy. End up at the most likely Valentine's. I don't even know what you call it. Valentine's like couples get together in this house, and that's kind of the plot of the film, that he's got Faye and he's
Oh, no.
taken her to this place because why, and the hilarious thing, and I mean in a way this isn't really giving away spoilers, but you have these collection of characters at this party, and it jumps between them and it jumps between Pretty Boy. For a long time, it doesn't really feel like a Pretty Boy movie. But obviously, gradually, no shock here, he starts killing them off. But the funny thing is, for ages, he's just in a random room in the house with Faye. And obviously, she starts to cotton on, yeah, I've been kidnapped. So he starts getting back and forth. And she's realised what's happened to the other guy. But it's like, I mean, come on, wouldn't they find him before now? Because they seem to be in this room for ages. And you would think, well, if at any point they wandered near the room, then their cover would be blown. But it keeps doing this thing where they're just in the room and you get quite long scenes between them. And then it'll just cut to like the people at the party and slowly kills them off. It's much worse than Blind. It's extremely slow. I don't think the person who edited this sort of knows how to edit. He doesn't understand that the point of editing is that you pick a moment where the scene could start to drag, an introduction via like Skype from like the cast and crew, and they kind of said, well, it's slightly different from Blind, but what we're going for is like an 80s sort of movie prestige. And there's a little bit of that in there, but they really don't go far enough. I mean, when we eventually review it, there's this catchy, cheesy 80s song, which
awesome.
has like about love being blind, because of course. And and it's very bad. The kills are pretty weak. I'll say this, then one of the worst kills ever. I mean, slight spoilers here, but one of the worst kills ever, which is literally when Pretty Boy just literally dunks someone's head into a tank. Like a few times. I mean, I think the idea is that he's meant to have hit his head on the thing, but you obviously don't necessarily see that, but you just have the visual of him just dunking his head in the tank until one of the lamest kills I've ever seen. Especially after previously he's just like hit someone with like an axe or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's rubbish. I mean, weirdly, I enjoyed it more than Demonic, and the reason is because it wasn't actually as boring.
Yes.
And it did sort of fit into that so bad it's kind of good sort of thing. There's a few moments of like entertaining dialogue that sort of saves it. There's a funny line actually when one of the characters like dozed off and another character hears like screaming and sirens or something like that, and she's like, wake up, don't you hear that, don't you hear like the screaming and sirens, and he's like, welcome to LA. And that was a good line, and there's some lines like that make it more entertaining. It's a very camp sort of film because there's scenes where it sort of cuts to the guy, like the killer, and he's got a mask on obviously, and it just like zooms in on his face for like longer than it logically should. So it ends up long because there's a point where there was still like 25 minutes to go, where I thought, this is the end scene, this feels like they might just end it here, and then it went on for another. There's a couple of like twists which are like, you know, come on, sort of stereotypical twists, but I think as you're building up to them, you can see them sort of coming a mile off, really.
Yeah.
So I obviously saw it at a festival, and that's the best place to see it, where you have a good laugh at how bad it was, or drunk maybe late at night. So it's a bad film, but it does have some guilty pleasure sort of value.
Oh, you don't remember me?
June 14th!
You called me pretty boy. Round. I saw Roger McDowell behind the bushes over by that gravelly road. Tried to scream out. It was too late. It was already on its way.
It was McDowell. But why? Why McDowell?